welcome to the F1 podcast, YYC F1. Today we'll be talking about the 2012 Formula One season and the ever-dramatic unfolding drama of live sport. I'm here with my host, Nathan.
Hey, good afternoon. It's a wonderful day here today, and I'm actually excited to learn about this as someone who is a new F1 fan. I'm excited to learn about the past races and such as the 2012 Formula One World Championship, which I've heard had a lot of controversy and a lot of interesting moments to it.
Yes, of course. So I think we have to start at the famed 7 different winners in first 7 races. The winners were Sebastian Vettel, Jenson Button, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Räikkönen, Fernando Alonso. Can't believe I'm actually going to say this. This is actually a wild statement, but Pascal Maldonado in a Williams, and I believe Mark Webber. So that season, let's start with Maldonado winning because that's the most out there. He won because Lewis Hamilton, who actually qualified first, was disqualified for fuel irregularities that race. So he started on pole alongside Fernando Alonso. And he was able to hold off Alonso, but a lot of people think the race may have been rigged in his favor because after the race, his pit box caught on fire. So any potential evidence of him cheating would have been burned away in the fire that started like 10 minutes after the race ended.
That's actually crazy.
And you don't know Pascal Maldonado, but he was known for being quite the reckless driver and crashing a lot and not actually being very good at all.
So kind of like how people consider Lance Stroll now, even though he's not very much of that exactly, but kind of that stereotype, I guess.
Yeah, that stereotype. I don't even know how he ended up in F1, but yeah.
No, I'm just looking at like kind of his history there, but like the highest he got during that season was 5th, if you take away the first, and he's only gone top 10 like 5 times the entire season. 4 if you take away that time he won, which I'm just looking at it's like it's insane the fact they just have like pole, his stats just have a pole and first place just on it, and then his entire thing is like the most mid to below average driver probably in the entire championship.
He almost finished 3rd at the European Grand Prix in Valencia, except on the last lap he was making a move for 2nd, trying to pass Hamilton, and they crashed into each other and they DNF'd.
That
he almost finished on the podium again.
That would have been insane. That's the thing is, I want to see stuff like that happen again now. We're kind of getting some stories like that now with like Hülkenberg getting podium and Hadjar getting podium as well. So, but we don't see a lot of like drivers that you don't expect to win just win.
Well, a lot of those races that those happened, it's because the bigger teams, mainly McLaren, were having a lot of trouble that whole time with each other. Mainly, they had a fast car. They had the fastest car of the season, technically. But they tried too many new things at once. They tried new pit guns, new jack stands, new stuff like that. And it never really worked. In Malaysia, they had a pit stop issue that dropped them. In Valencia, they had a pit stop issue that dropped them behind Alonso. And they also had a lot of reliability failures. Hamilton retired, I believe, 3 times from the lead of the race. Twice because of reliability issues.
That's just kind of crazy. And I'm just looking at like McLaren's placements during that season and just how inconsistent it was. You had one race where like someone would win but then get 16th, 8th and 19th, 2nd and retired, 1st and retired, 1st and retired, 2nd and retired, 4th and 5th, retired and 10th. It's just very inconsistent.
Like, yeah, because the most consistent team, I wouldn't say Ferrari, but the most consistent person was Alonso. Because that Ferrari, it was slow in qualifying. It was pretty fast in the race, I'm not going to lie. But it was really reliable. 0 reliability issues through the entire season for both drivers.
And they
actually got good strategies, too.
Oh, for sure.
So, despite him only winning 3 races, he finished every race in the top 5. And after the summer break, every race he finished in the top 3.
Yeah, that is really good. Like he was definitely like he's probably when people look back on when he's like retires and stuff, he will be considered one of the top drivers, maybe top 10, top 15. Either way, he'll be considered kind of in that like not GOAT conversation, but in that conversation that like he could have been more kind of there.
There's a stat. With 11 more points, he'd be a 5-time world champion.
That's crazy.
Even in this race, in the season where he lost the championship, he only lost it because Vettel was able to pass Schumacher like 2 or 3 laps before the safety car came out. Had Paul di Resta crashed 2 laps earlier, the race would have ended under safety car and he would have been crowned champion.
Yeah, that's what's in. It's so close. Like, you just love to see championships like that, though. Like, where it comes down to like one mistake could like change the entire projection of it. As much as teams don't like that, from a fan perspective, from a commercial perspective, it is just insane to watch, and it's really engaging for the viewers because like it's so close. You want to focus on every aspect of it.
Yeah, it was a really good season to watch because as much as the McLarens were off the pace, not off the pace, but unreliable, when they were there, they were usually fighting up there. But speaking of the McLarens, after, I think it was Monza, no, maybe in Belgium or Monza, Hamilton leaked confidential McLaren telemetry on Twitter because he was upset. Oh, it was Belgium qualifying. He wanted a different setup that he wasn't allowed to get, and his teammate Jenson Button qualified on pole when he qualified like 6th, so he leaked confidential information on Twitter.
That's insane. Like, I guess he is not that kind of driver now, and I think it's because like he was a lot younger and so like inexperienced, and that's kind of thing when you look at like younger drivers like that is that like it gets to the head a lot, and like those little aspects, it gets really frustrating when you're at like such a younger age there, that all these little things, even like a big thing too, it just kind of mentally holds up in there.
Yeah, back in the day he had attitude. Oh my god, the stuff he'd say. Oh wee.
But it's crazy now because now he's like very much more media trained. See, like coming out, like if you look at all the drivers now, he's probably one of the more professional drivers.
For sure.
Which is kind of interesting. It's like, again, it kind of shows like this isn't just in Formula One or just racing. In all sports, people are now like at a young age they're media trained. I think like this is kind of going off the rails a bit, but like a guy like Connor Bedard, for example, in hockey, got like media trained at the age of like 15, 16. And that's the thing now is like you're seeing in all these sports, even Formula One, well, all these younger people are getting like media trained. So they know what to say when they're talking to media. They know what they're allowed to and when not allowed to say and when to put out their frustrations.
Yeah, it's the R word slur has been dropped twice in the past 5 years.
Which is so crazy, but I assume it was probably dropped a lot more often before these past 5 years.
I mean, I presume so. One was Max and one was Yuki. In Yuki's defense, English is clearly his second language. He might have not known what the R-word slur means. Max definitely knew what it meant when he said it. But Yuki, a little less so.
Yeah.
I give him some flack there.
And Max, again, like, of course he shouldn't use it. But Max as well, as I can assume that being raised the way he kind of was, to be very competitive, I can assume where that's kind of related to.
Yeah, it was also conveniently Lance Stroll who was calling that.
Huh. Actually, I think I actually saw the clip of that.
Yeah.
I think he like crashed this, like cut him off or something like that.
In Portugal.
Which is interesting how Lance Stroll actually went from a while back. I think before this season he was kind of known as like he just wasn't a good driver, always crashed. But now this season it's not. You don't see that. Because now this season it's Kimi Antonelli that probably has that actually more.
It's because when Stroll crashed, it was always a big moment. It was always like on the spotlight.
Yeah.
Like in Russia 2021, his team came on the radio and said, "Hey, do you want to pit for new tires?" And he said no, and then he crashed right after he said no. So that puts the limelight on him. If he were just to crash normally, no one would care.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing too. I think it's a bit different now. Like he's actually not a bad driver at all. I think it's the fact that like his dad does own the team, and that gives kind of like a bit of like a nepo baby effect to that, where people think he's like not a good driver. Like in my opinion, if he wasn't he's clearly an F1 driver. He has the skills to be that for sure. I think this just that he's very inconsistent though too.
Yeah.
But like really, if you look how he's doing this season, he really isn't doing that bad. He's 11th overall. His car is only been out once. It was because of a withdrawal, I think, before the race.
Yeah.
So it was like, really, he's actually crashing a lot less.
But now to get back on topic about 2012,
Yep.
we have to talk about Kimi Räikkönen, one of the first 7 people to win, and how his contract with Lotus bankrupted them. So
Yeah, you talked to me about this
yeah.
beforehand, and I think it's just interesting. I'm actually curious of like why teams now wouldn't sign that, and especially a lot of European sports as well. They can't really offer contracts like that.
So this whole story starts back in 2008 and 9. They wanted Fernando Alonso because many different reasons, but there was a Spanish bank that also wanted to sponsor the team, but they wanted a Spanish driver. Now they had Felipe Massa and they had Kimi Räikkönen. Now Räikkönen is objectively the better driver, but this bank was about to do its IPO in Brazil, and they needed someone to market that, being Felipe Massa, a Brazilian. So they fired Räikkönen, but he had a contract until 2011. So they paid him not to show up for 2010 and 2011. And then the moment the contract expired, he came back with Lotus. Now Lotus was not expecting to be good. They were expecting to be 8th to 10th, realistically. So they gave him a contract that was per point scored, we give you 20,000 euros. In the 2 seasons of his contract, he won, I believe, 3 races, finished 3rd in the standings once, and I think 3rd in the standings again, actually. I think he finished 3rd both times.
I'm just looking at it there, but he finished 3rd in 2012 and then 5th in 2013.
There you go. And he got handed out 20 million euros. He never got paid for that 20 million euros. Lotus F1 team, as an entity, still owe him the money. They never paid it.
And they don't even exist now, so he's pretty much owned by probably the stakeholders in that team.
I don't think he cares that much, but funny thing, and also one of the first of the 7 winners was Nico Rosberg and the returning up-and-coming Mercedes team from 2010. Schumacher and him qualified on the front row. Schumacher had a reliability failure, even though he would have started on pole in Monaco had he not carried a penalty from the race before. At Spain, he got a penalty, and he got a grid penalty. So he qualified on pole, but I think he started like 7th after the penalty. And he was pretty good that season. He got his 155th and last podium there, too, in Valencia. He finished on the podium, but he was one of the winners, breeding more faith into that team than people thought at the time. And the first back-to-back winner was Fernando Alonso, but we have to talk about his first win, which was Malaysia. It was a rainy race. McLaren had messed up their pit stop, so they were out. But the Sauber of Sergio Perez was on his tail for like 10 or 15 laps until Perez made a mistake and went wide. But a lot of people thought Perez could have won a race had that mistake not happened.
What's interesting, too, is that Fernando Alonso started 9th on the grid doing that as well. So, really, there was a bit of luck there as well. With the McLarens getting out, that definitely probably helped him out a bit there.
But that car, it was slow in qualifying, but it was racy. It had pace. It could be beat on repeatedly. And he won in Germany as well. He almost won Spain up until Maldonado was able to jump him in the pits again. Where else did he almost win? Abu Dhabi, he wasn't really any close there. He wasn't too far off in Brazil, which is where Hamilton was actually leading that race, and Hulkenberg was trying to make a move, and they crashed into each other. So they both went out.
That's crazy. Yeah, that season's just so interesting because, like, nowadays you don't see, like, you had 7 different, what was it? In the first 7 races, you had 7 different winners, correct?
Yes.
You don't see that now.
You don't?
Like, I think what you look at is that, like, how, like, yeah, there was 12, like, teams doing that in that championship, but then compared to, like, now, it's like, I feel like now there's a clear difference between, like, the top 4 and everyone else.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's now, in a sense, nearly impossible for any of those bottom 6 teams, bottom 11 probably so next season, to get into that, like, top spot.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting seeing, like, Mercedes coming back and being able to win a race, Williams winning a race even though they finished 8th out of 12. That's crazy. And, like, that's just great to see. It's just a bunch of different drivers winning it.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to go back to like a Formula One season like that, where it's a bit, where it's not exactly balanced, but it's like it's not that there's gonna be one team or two teams clearly competing for the championship, but there's at least like 4 teams in there, 5 teams in there.
I know we're not talking about it, but the 2010 season, going to that season finale, 4 drivers were mathematically in the hunt.
Which is crazy.
It was both Red Bulls, Alonso, and Hamilton.
And now this season it's either one of the McLarens.
Probably Piastri, yeah.
But most likely,
And
unless he DNFs in like the next 3 straight races or something.
even if he DNFs, he still leads the championship.
Exactly.
But
That's the crazy thing.
2021 was a good season for a different reason. You had 2 drivers dunking on the whole field repeatedly. No, I remember watching it. It would be like Hamilton and Verstappen separated by a couple seconds, and then like 40 seconds back to third.
Yeah, and that era just Verstappen winning. I want your thoughts on that. There, it's like, do you like seeing an era of just like where you kind of know like one individual or just like 2 people are just gonna dominate?
Well, in the hybrid era from 2017 onwards, actually, even if you go back to 2014, the only seasons Hamilton truly dominated were 19 and 20. Every other season, it was pretty competitive for at least the first half until Ferrari started messing up.
Yeah.
1920 he dominated, but all the other ones were fairly competitive.
Yeah, and like now it's like now cars are getting to a point where it's like I think a lot of the bottom teams definitely now are doing a bit better than they usually would.
Yeah.
Which is great. But there's becoming a big separation between the top 4 and the bottom 6.
Yeah, there is, but that gap will come down with the budget gap. With the budget. That's gonna come down.
Oh yeah.
But I heard a rumor this morning that Ferrari's engine for next season, incredibly powerful, incredibly unreliable.
Unreliable but really powerful.
Apparently the rumors have it doing great on the dyno for like 20 laps and then blowing up.
That's not the greatest.
If they fix that, they're cooking.
Oh yeah, but if they don't, then it's just gonna be another stereotypical Ferrari season.
And actually, it's gonna be a lot like McLaren in 2012. They had a lot of gearbox issues. Remember, I think the race where Hamilton announced his exit from McLaren was Monza. He won Monza, and he was leading Singapore by a good 10 or 8 seconds, and his gearbox failed. And there's a video of him like depressingly walking away from the car. I think that's the moment he realized. Well, he had already signed the contract with Mercedes by that point, but I think that's where he realized he was happy that he signed it.
Yeah, that was kind of like McLaren stereotypically for a while. Is just the engine problems.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but wasn't that like last season too?
it was the main. What you're thinking about is 2015 to 17. They had Honda, and they wanted to fit the engine to what they called size 0 packaging. But Honda's like, it will not meet cooling requirements. And McLaren said, we don't care. We're doing it anyways. So the engine was always running hot and broke down a lot as a result.
Yeah, that's kind of thing. It's like, again, I think that's the benefit of just teams making their own engines being one, is that they can kind of just go with it. But also the fact that, like, you got to understand that, like, you got to listen to the engine constructors and be like, if it's going to overheat, you don't go like, it'll be fine. Like, you got to build your car around that.
Like, a stat for that era for Fernando Alonso for you is in 2017, there was 20 races. Fernando Alonso only competed in 19 because he skipped one to do a different race. He DNF'd 11 of those races. One was a crash. The rest were reliability.
That's insane.
He was quite literally a part-time driver at that point.
I want to point out one thing in 2012 is just the amount of teams there were.
There were, yeah.
12 teams. And outside that one time where we had one player kind of get suspended for a race and had to get replaced for that, no player got replaced.
Yeah, no one, they all stayed put.
Which is kind of crazy considering that there's what was it, 2 teams that didn't get a single point, 3 teams that didn't get a single point the entire season.
Yep. This whole mid-driver, like mid-season sacking, it was always a little bit common, but it's been significantly more common in the past couple of years.
Yeah, because I think a lot of, it's because teams want to see results as well, and because of how financially competitive F1 is, a lot of top teams are like, they're fine with their drivers, but a lot of more bottom teams, they need to win.
Yeah, because like I remember in 1994, Benetton sacked one of their drivers for Verstappen's dad. Then I remember in 2009, after Massa had his injury, they sacked the original guy they hired and hired someone else instead.
Yeah, that's like, I think we've only seen once this season where a guy like where I think it was Duhan that got replaced this season.
Yes, but the whole promoting and demoting thing, that started when Verstappen got promoted to Red Bull, but it's gotten more common the past couple of years.
Yeah, because again, like a lot of like teams want to see results right away.
Yeah.
And when they have someone who you cannot rely on, like let's say you have a driver that like has little experience and they're not doing well, you're gonna replace them because you want results.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of top teams aren't gonna do that because they like McLaren has Piastri and Norris. Red Bull is Verstappen, though they did replace Lawson with Yuki.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of more of like a switch. It's not really like as much as you want to say it's kind of like a mix-ish because he didn't, though it's more like a promotion demotion kind of, they were still like on the grid.
Speaking of Grosjean getting his one race ban, that was the first one race ban served since 1994.
1994.
Yes.
Sorry, I could be wrong, but have we seen one since then?
Magnussen, I believe, got one a couple years ago. And I know Behrman is 2 penalty points away from one.
Bam, 2 penalty points away from one.
Yeah, so because penalty points are like demerit points for a license.
Yeah.
They reset once a year. So he has 12 months until whenever he incurred his first one this season. So I think he incurred his first one in like Canada or something. So he has until Canada next season to not occur more than 2. If he gets 2, he's done.
Yeah, he's definitely, that's going to be difficult to do.
We'll see, but because he's at the back too, so a lot more accidents happen in the back.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting if we're going to see that this season. What do you think? Do you think we're going to see that this season?
I think Behrman won't do it. He's a good driver. A lot of those penalty points were in questionable incidents that I don't think. The whole penalty point system to me is kind of flawed. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think he'll like definitely he probably knows that for sure, and the team knows, and like Haas knows that. So they're building probably this strategy right now, I would assume, for the next few races until the end of the season around ensuring he doesn't get suspended.
Yeah, because I know this time last season Verstappen was close to a ban too.
That's pretty crazy. But the what demerit points did he get for those ones?
I think he had 10 out of 12.
10 out of 12. That would have been interesting seeing Verstappen get a suspension.
Well, speaking of Verstappen, he made his GT4 debut at the Nürburgring. He got enough to qualify for his license to compete in GT3 at the next round, and then he just dipped out. He got his license, and then he left.
Yeah, that's fair.
He made his debut in the 296 Ferrari. He was 140 horsepower down and 120 kilos heavier. But for the next person in the same car as them, he was 24 seconds a lap faster.
You know what would be interesting, though, is that if we do see Behrman do get suspended this season, if it does happen, then we will likely see Ryo Hirakawa. I apologize, I'm probably saying that wrong, but he's currently them and Alpine's test driver and reserve driver. So if we could see him on the grid, and I believe that'll be the first time he actually would be on the Formula One grid.
It would be, yeah.
Which I'm kind of interested in seeing that. Like, I don't want Behrman to get suspended, but I think it would be interesting to see that.
It definitely would be interesting to see that.
Because he's 31.
Wow, that's a lot older than I thought he was.
Yeah, so 31, and if it does happen, has the opportunity to be on the grid for the Formula One grid in the first time of his career.
That's 31. Wowzers. I thought he was like 25. Wow.
Yeah, because last season he was test and reserve driver for McLaren, and now this season he's a test and reserve driver for Haas and Alpine.
Damn, I guess we'll see.
We will see.
Back to the 2012 season. What other questionable things happened? Well, there was the messing up of Weber So at the British Grand Prix, Red Bull introduced a new front wing, and they brought exactly two. Vettel's broke, so overnight they took it off Weber's car and put it onto Vettel's car, and then he walked back in to a car with the old front wing on it. Then he went on to win. Did he win that race?
He did win that race.
He won that race, and then after he said, "Not bad for a number 2 driver."
That's funny. To be fair, he was the number 2 driver though that season, so it makes sense. But still,
he was. But taking the nice brand new front wing off of your car and putting it on the ones who broke is unfair. That's like a level of disrespect.
That is completely disrespectful. I don't think we're gonna ever see teams. Maybe we likely would eventually, but I don't think, like especially this season, we probably won't see a team do that.
Because like now when Red Bull brings an upgrade and there's only one, it obviously goes on Verstappen's car.
Yeah.
They don't take it off Yuki's car to put it on Verstappen's car if Verstappen's breaks.
Maybe they have to put on Yuki's one because they kind of need upgrades for that second car.
And at this point, they're doing it for testing, bro. They run 2 different specs of car to see which one's better.
They should just be using the Racing Bull car next season.
Bro, Red Bull is so cooked. One thing I did like is they had this special livery also at the British Grand Prix, and it was the faces of all the employees. So looking at it, it looked quite weird because it was just faces. But the face was like translucent, so you could still see the actual Red Bull livery underneath. It was quite unique looking, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I thought it was quite nice.
Going back to the 2012 season, I'm just looking at the overall standings, and HOT Cosworth got disqualified. Both of the races disqualified in the first race in Australia.
I can't remember what that was for. I think that was probably would have been for fuel, I guess.
That would make sense.
Fuel irregularities.
I'm just looking into it at the moment, but we'll get back to it there once I find something on it.
I mean, though, that's why it's so hard for F1 teams to join now. That's why it's taking Cadillac like 4 years to get the license, because F1 does not want those bum teams on again.
Oh, for sure. And I think, yeah, like, just looking at that season too, as much as we're like, there's a big difference between the top 4 and bottom 6 teams now, looking at this season, it's like, yeah, you had your top 4 before, like, Mercedes kind of was able to get up there. So, and then you kind of had, like, middle-of-the-range teams like Mercedes, Sauber, and Force India during that season. And then you had Williams, and then Toro, and then you had 3 teams with no points whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't seem...
Well, for one, some of those drivers were good. Jean-Eric Verne was there, right?
Sorry, who was that again?
Jean-Eric Verne. Was he one of the drivers? I have a feeling he was.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, he's a Formula E world champion. Sebastian Buemi, I'm pretty sure, is on. No, he was in 2010, I think. A lot of those drivers were not actually that bad. They were quality drivers. They were just given not much to work with.
Oh, yeah. And, like, yeah. And we're not going to see anything like that I don't think we're going to see anything like that for a while. Like, teams now are just not that bad.
Well, for now, teams that bad can't even join F1.
Yeah.
They join F1 right now. They look at financial capability, engineering capability, manufacturing capability, marketing capability. There's so many different aspects. Back then, they just let anyone in. You know, there was a team that was supposed to be on in 2012 called Team USA, and it got the license. It had a whole press tour. It released and everything, and they had no money to field the car, so they backed out.
That is... Why would that be the team name?
I don't know. There was in the early 2000s, there was a team that got scammed by a fake Nigerian prince, who then ran for the prime minister of like Zimbabwe or something, some
That's
African
crazy.
nation.
That is crazy.
When they called his lawyer, do you want to know what they said?
What?
We don't know where he is.
Oh my God.
He said, quote, "I'm a Nigerian prince with a car company. I will pay you $180 million to put my logo on your car." They spent like they had $180 million in the bank. Then they're like, "Yo, we need that $180 million. Our creditors are asking for it." He was not there.
So I'm looking at the disqualification during the Australian Grand Prix in 2012 for HOT Cosworth. And apparently, both the drivers failed to set a lap time within 107% of the forward in Q1.
That is a rule. That's still a rule.
which is interesting because you don't
You
I
never
don't-
see that anymore.
you don't see that anymore. But it's the fact that the car was so slow that they couldn't get.
I mean, one thing I will say about 2012 is there were a lot more engine manufacturers. You had Renault, Ferrari, Mercedes, Cosworth, and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, I'm just looking into it at the moment. But yeah, it's like, yeah. So so engine, you had Renault, Mercedes, Ferrari, Cosworth. So you had 4 engine constructors then.
But one was an unknown, a relatively unknown brand, Cosworth. Not many people know them.
Yeah.
Today, it's all big billion-dollar businesses.
Oh yeah, and now in the 2025 season, the engines now is Renault, which is interesting because even though they still kind of have a team in Alpine, but they also just aren't really.
I mean, they shut down their engine department starting 2026.
Yeah.
People actually protested that.
Well, it's because they've been in a team for a while too, though. So, but they'll be gone then. It's like they also have Mercedes, Ferrari, and Honda as the other engines.
And
there.
soon to be Cadillac starting 2028.
Yeah, which I think. Yeah, I'm just looking at. So, also Audi's is gonna have their own engine, I think,
Audi
as well.
too.
So, I think that's kind of the nice thing-ish is having teams make their own engines. Like having don't have someone who's has a lot of money buy a team, talk to these companies to try and get an engine made or something, or talk to Ferrari or Mercedes or something. But you have these big car companies like Audi and Honda who kind of are coming in and just making their own stuff essentially.
I know in the early 2000s there was Ferrari, Ford, Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, Honda, Cosworth, Renault. Those were all the engine manufacturers back in the early 2000s.
I think a lot of them are a bit worried about getting a lot of them are going for I'm just looking right now, but Ferrari makes 3 teams, not just Ferrari, but they also do Haas and Cadillac's using theirs next season.
Yes.
And then Mercedes does McLaren's, Mercedes, Williams, and Alpines. Which again, it's I think when you are a lot of those teams too, is that you want to try and get a reliable engine.
Well, many reasons. For one, you could have a works engine deal like Red Bull has with Honda right now, and what Aston Martin has with Honda next season. It offloads development costs to a third party, Honda, but it gives you exclusive rights to the engine so that it's tailored to your car. But those also cost more. So for the teams that are cost worried, the customer route and buying another engine makes way more sense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's also, it bit some teams in the butt before. Because in 2015, only one non-Mercedes car ran the Mercedes engine at full power, and it was Romain Grosjean's Lotus at Belgium. Every other Mercedes manufacturer did not get to run that engine at full power.
Which is kind of crazy.
Mercedes barely ran their engine at full power.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue if your own team can't run their own engine.
They were so secretive about it in 2014. When McLaren's car broke down, the McLaren engineers had to leave this garage, wait for the Mercedes engineers to come in and fix it, and then go back in.
That's kind of crazy.
That's how secretive some teams can be with the engine layout.
Yeah. I assume now it's not as much like that just because so many teams are using it.
Well, it might be like that more next season because it's all new engines.
Yeah, I think this. If it's example, you have McLaren and Mercedes, I can understand that. They're competing against one another. But I feel if it's Ferrari and Haas, I don't think Ferrari cares.
Probably the reason why Mercedes cared so much back then is their big innovation was a split turbo, and they didn't want anyone to know they split the turbo. So instead of having the turbo in one spot like this, they split it. So part of the turbo was here, part of the turbo was here, and the engine was in the middle. They didn't want people to know. They lied in their press video about F1 engines at the time. They had an animation, and it was an animation for an engine they weren't using.
Did they even win with that?
Mercedes won many races with that engine.
Jeez. Well, I guess it pays off.
I mean, yeah, they lied to basically everybody.
They're yeah, we're just gonna, and the fact that they had other teams using theirs as well.
Yeah.
And those teams didn't even know.
Because the engine was so good, even if it was being run at 90% power. Williams, a team known, the moment the regulations became more aero focused, Williams dropped from third to fifth.
Yeah.
So when it was more engine focused, Williams was fine with it. They're like, okay, we don't care.
Yeah.
The 2015 Lotus was one of the worst. I think it was probably the 8th best car that season. They got a podium. Why? Because Mercedes let them use full power. They didn't care.
Yeah, like I'm just looking at it right now, but yeah, they had the actually no, they used the Renault actually that season.
No, they did?
Yeah, they used the Renault that season.
I swear, I thought Lotus used the Mercedes engine.
It might have been the next season.
Lotus didn't exist next season, the year after that.
In the 2013?
I'm talking about in 2015.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of 2012.
Yeah, they used the Mercedes power unit for that.
Mm.
Just that season. And Mercedes is the reason, because they owed Mercedes a lot of money, so they took them to court, and that's why they don't exist. Mercedes is like, you never paid us. Stuff it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting now. It's like the fact that how easy it was for a lot of these teams to come in and leave in F1.
Yeah.
Like, they only had 12 teams in 20... They had 12 teams in 2012, which is kind of funny. And then, I'm just checking right now, but I think they had 11 in 2013.
Yeah. But to go back to 2012, the championship finale of that race, Sebastian Vettel picked up extreme exhaust damage, which caused aerodynamic flaws, obviously, after contact with Bruno Senna. And Red Bull fixed it with duct tape. His radio stopped working, so he couldn't communicate with the team anymore because the team couldn't hear him, and he couldn't hear the team. Yet he still went from dead last in a damaged Red Bull to like 6th, which was enough to win the world title.
Which is crazy.
On the first lap, he was backwards with a barely functioning car. And he had a horrible strategy because they couldn't talk to each other. They pit for new tires and it started raining as he was coming out of the pits. He had horrific strategy calls.
So his strategy was not great.
His strategy wasn't good.
Not good luck at all.
Yeah,
and they still ended up winning the
he still delivered a drive of a champion.
Kind of shows how good some drivers can be.
And
but also, it's just like that season, just looking at it, it's just like one little thing like that could have changed the entire thing.
And you had Alonso's staring off into space picture after he lost. Where you can probably Google it right now. He's just staring off into distant space blankly with nothing going on besides probably frustration because he tried his damn hardest that year to win. He worked so hard. He was working tirelessly, slaving away.
He got second in that last race too and still only lost by 3 points.
I know.
Like, you just think about it, if he got just one place higher in like any race.
Had he stayed in front of Maldonado, had Grosjean not crashed into him, had he been able to keep in front of Webber in Silverstone.
Yeah, I'm looking at the photo. It's just like he just looks like surprised that just all of that just happened.
He was leading the championship by 44 points. That was a record at the time for most points overcome to win a title until Verstappen beat it in 22.
Which is already insane. But that's the thing too. It's like Fernando Alonso, like he was so consistent that season too. His car retired only twice the entire season. His lowest position was 9th, but outside of 9th and 7th, like in China and Bahrain, he's gone top 5 the entire time.
Yeah.
Like how he was so consistent.
He was always there. And really, you have to look back at Ferrari as a whole now. So if we look back to the last time they won a driver's title in 2007, 2008 they lost by 1 point. Felipe Massa is currently taking them to court to overturn the results of that season, so he wins. He thinks he has a pretty good chance of winning. It's 3 days towards the end of October.
I'm going to be honest with you. The fact that it was so long ago, too, I don't think they're going to do anything with it.
I mean, his main point is that Max Mosley and Bernie Ecclestone colluded to hide the fact that 2008 Singapore Grand Prix was fixed until later. Except Max Mosley is dead and Bernie Ecclestone is like 95. I don't think he remembers. His witnesses are a dead guy and a 95-year-old guy.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah, I don't know. He's really been crying about it. Then 2009, they were awful. 2010, they lost by 4 points because they messed up the strategy in the final race. 2011, they were nowhere. 2012 was 3 points. 2013 and 14, they were nowhere. 15, nowhere. 17, they struggled with reliability and driver error. Driver error in 2018. They were cheating in 2019. They sucked in 2020 as a result of cheating. 2021 was a recovery year. 22, they made too many mistakes. 23, 24, and 25, they were never close enough.
Yeah, Ferrari is such an. I saw this one image on social media. It was just teams that like this year is our year, and you had like Arsenal, the Dallas Cowboys, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then on there was Ferrari.
Yeah.
As a Ferrari fan, would you agree that every year is your year until the end of the season?
No, there's been a couple of years where the beginning of the season is so good, and then it falls apart because they start cheating or they stick with an upgrade package that didn't work. Or in 2022, it was Technical Directive 39 that raised the minimum ride height like 4 millimeters, and it took the car out of its ideal operating window, and they got screwed.
Yeah,
And that regulation existed because Mercedes were bitching too much because their car was bad.
Yeah, like even on paper when you look at it too, like even this season they probably have two of the best drivers in the entire Formula 1. They have Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. You have two of the best drivers right there, and they're 5th and 6th.
Do you want to know what they're struggling with this season? Ride height issues. Do you want to know where ride height issues didn't matter? 2012. Why? Because it was better.
Yeah. But 2012 was just an interesting season. Ferrari is such an interesting team to look at because they are the face of Formula 1 in that sense, but they're not they haven't had recent success.
That team in 2012 was operationally pretty well. They had pretty good strategies. Their pit stops were pretty decent, but now it's operational issues that they're struggling with more than anything. Back then, they didn't have those. They had other issues, but never that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like, for sure. And, I don't know. Ferrari is such an interesting one, though. Like, I think from an outside perspective, you always look in, so I'm just kind of like, my mind just went to air for a second, but, like, from an outsider looking in at Ferrari, it just seems, like, so painful how, like, they're such a big team, like, in just so many ways. They're probably, like, the biggest one, maybe second if you go Red Bull first. It's maybe one of those two.
I mean, Ferrari is the most valued team. It has the most marketing appeal. I think it has one of the highest sponsorship like values in the sport. I think it's Oracle Red Bull Racing, the Oracle sponsorship, and then it's HP. They have billions of dollars worth of everything. They have the ability to have everything they need. They don't.
They pay so much to have probably two of the best drivers in the entire F1 on their team.
And it
but
doesn't do anything.
Going back to 2012, just so we can get off that, going off the kind of fact that like the success or like the lack of success Ferrari's had in recent years, going back to 2012, I think I want to look at some points here, like looking at the fastest laps doing it, and I want to know your opinion on this. Do you think just overall fastest laps kind of compare to like the car?
Well, the McLarens were definitely way too slow. Honestly, I think McLaren's had the most win as a team at 6. I'm pretty sure McLaren took the most wins as an individual team.
I'm just looking at that right now to confirm it.
I think it was 6, 5, and 3.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, so the McLaren car.
Actually, Red Bull at 7.
Okay, there you go. But
still,
if you look at it from that perspective, had they not been disqualified, they probably would have won Spain. That's another 25 points. If his car didn't break down, he would have won Abu Dhabi and he would have won Singapore. So that's 75 points right there that were not in his hand. Then you have the crash in Brazil. That's another 25 points. So that's 125 points in 5 races.
Yeah. I want to just look at the teams comparing this. Let's compare next season, looking at the teams in the 2026 Formula One
Perfect.
Championship season, and compare them to 2012. And of course, you got the main ones there. You got like the big four considered now: Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes.
Yeah.
Though Mercedes like recently came back to that point, there was still you got the big four then. Lotus doesn't exist anymore, and the main engine, which was Renault there as well, doesn't exist. Though I
Yeah.
think Renault does not make anything else. So yeah, so Sauber is still around ish.
So well, they're being rebranded next
They're
season.
being rebranded now. They were Kick Sauber this season, but next season they will be considered Audi. So they kind of still around ish.
Yeah.
Force India doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, that's a story for another day.
I watched the F1 documentary on Netflix. I think it's like
Drive to Survive? That one?
yeah, that one. It was just really popular. And it was very big during 2019 COVID, and it brought back. I wouldn't say it individually, but it helped bring Formula One into the mainstream.
Yes, it did.
As it was, because Formula One and like a lot of racing in general was falling off in the late 2010s.
It was also very niche.
Yeah, so kind of I think F1 does a really good job promoting itself, and I think that's what kind of helps it continue to be mainstream.
Yeah, and a lot of other motorsports are riding the pigtails of that. NASCAR and IndyCar don't put jack into marketing as much as F1, yet their popularity also has risen
Yeah,
because of F1.
yeah, I think that's the thing too. Yeah, just looking at it, Williams has been around I feel like nearly forever at Formula One.
Like I think they're on FW. I think it's on the FW 45 now, so 45, 50 years, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking back at it there, but yeah, their first entry as a team was in the 1977 Spanish Grand Prix. That's as a team. As a constructor in 1978. So they've been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and that's very nice to look at that. Like, even though the sponsorships and all this stuff is rebranded and such, they are still their identity is still the same,
Yeah.
and that is great to see how a team has been around for so long and still being able to kind of keep that with it.
Yeah.
Look at some other ones there, like Toro Rosso doesn't exist anymore. I don't believe.
Well, technically, Toro Rosso is Rebel's B team.
Oh yeah,
It became Alpha Tauri, and
Yeah.
now is Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
which is I just call it Racing Bulls.
No,
Just going out Visa Cash App,
Yeah,
like
two payment processors as your sponsors.
which is kind of funny. Do you think like when they have to make a payment thing, they have like as a sponsorship, like you have to use a Visa card to transfer and
I don't know, but
uh,
the Toro Rosso livery was also beautiful back in the day. It was like a bright blue with silver.
yeah.
Boy, it was good.
Like I don't know. I want your thoughts on this. The fact that they're considered now as like, which they pretty much are as a B team for Ferrari. While they're in the same like
Toro
championship
Rosso?
for
Red
not
Bull.
Ferrari, sorry, for
Red
Red
Bull.
Bull.
Well,
I want your thoughts on that.
back then, like back in the early 2010s and mid 2010s, it was a lot more of just a driver development thing. But now it's like straight up, they're using the same suspension, the same gearbox, the same engine. They're using way more parts than they used to.
Yeah.
Like if you take the livery off the cars and put them next to each other, 99% of people could not point which is the Red Bull and which isn't,
Yeah.
because they use way more parts than they used to. But everything they've done within regulations. It's fun fact, they wanted Red Bull. I mean, they were Max Verstappen. Red Bull wanted Max Verstappen to test the Racing Bulls car and give a comparison to the Red Bull car. They just didn't do it because of the potential media backlash.
Well, yeah, because in a sense you're having a driver for another team test out the car for that team, even though they are pretty much under the same team umbrella ish, but still, I kind of like how even though like they kind of consider the B team, they're still mainly this season still kind of competitive, and they're kind of like their own identity ish. Like the colors are a bit different. They're more blue and white compared to Red Bull, which is more like a darker blue and red,
Yeah.
and like other colors there. The social media they're probably the best at social media.
Back in the day, Mercedes was jokes at social media. Oh my god.
I think that's the thing when you gotta look at, just sports in general. Gotta focus a lot on social media.
Yeah, because Mercedes back in the day would make fun of themselves, and they would make fun of other things. Ferrari never did it. There was an instance in 2017 where there was an accident involving the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. They came up like 10 seconds after that crash happened. They posted on Twitter, Ferrari was not responsible for that accident. It was all solely on Verstappen's plate.
Yeah.
Even though most people think if anyone could have avoided the accident, it was the Ferrari.
I want to go back to 2012 then, just look at teams compared to then now.
Perfect.
But then you have Caterham. Caterham? Am I saying that right?
Caterham.
Sorry?
Caterham.
Caterham. That's not one. But yeah, like it's interesting because it's a Malaysian team.
Yeah.
You don't see that a lot now, which is I like seeing teams like not from
Europe, basically.
mainly from Europe. Yeah, I think it's kind of nice like not seeing teams from there because you always are like right now all the teams are from either Europe or the US.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of thing. It's that like it's nice for like those places, but I know a lot of like other countries kind of want their own team as well. That's kind of the one thing that Haas did for a while is that they kind of brand themselves as like the US team.
Yes.
But now Cadillac's kind of doing it.
I mean, Haas was barely US, man. None of their parts were really from America.
Yeah. And I could be wrong. I think it's either Haas or Cadillac is having their setup being Indianapolis.
That's Cadillac.
Yeah, which is they're trying to brand themselves more as like the American team.
But speaking of foreign teams, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2023, F1 rejected a bid from a Chinese team called Cheetah something. At least I think it was called Cheetah something. I don't really remember what it was called. But they rejected a bid from a Chinese team.
That's interesting. I think eventually we'll see a Chinese team, which I think would be kind of cool.
I think at this point you need the Chinese team. A lot of the car manufacturers that are making strides in the automotive industry are Chinese.
Yeah.
So I think China should really consider it.
I think Japan should have an F1 team. I think they have a lot of car companies. They have a lot of like racing teams.
Yeah.
But having their own they have some drivers in Formula 1.
I mean, most of the Japanese auto manufacturers picked the World Endurance Championship instead.
Yeah.
Honda has a car in it. Not Honda. Toyota has a car in it. Then Acura runs in IMSA, which is like also endurance racing.
Yeah.
So they picked that over it.
I would assume though it's mostly comes down to like cost effective. It's probably cheaper having a team in that.
Yeah, because in the World Endurance Championship, you run the same car for multiple seasons with minor upgrades.
Yeah.
You don't have to do new car every year.
Yeah, like Formula 1 is expensive.
Yeah.
But Caterham, am I saying?
Caterham.
That's an interesting way to say it compared to like how it's.
At least that's how
No.
people on YouTube say it. That's how I just assume.
I'm just gonna go with that then. But I think it's interesting. They lasted 3 seasons. They got 10th, 11th, and 11th. The highest placement they ever got, I'm looking at, I believe, is 13th. Ever in 3 seasons.
When your dog crap.
Yeah. That you don't see teams like that now. Is the thing.
When you're bad, you're just bad. There's no in between.
Yeah, and I want to take a look at like this, and there's 2 teams. Even though they were not good for 3 seasons, there's 2 teams that essentially did worse than them, which is surprising because you don't think it can get any worse than a team getting 0 points. But what's also interesting in that sense too is you had that they only retired their car 3 times the entire 2012 season.
Well,
And they got a DNS once. So if you want to count that too, they've only had to like forfeit the race essentially 4 times out of a total of, what would that be?
about 60. Give or take like 5 or 10, about 60.
Which is relatively impressive.
Well, on the point of you saying teams are worse than you, when you're spending $30 million a year, your competitors around you are probably spending a little less than that. Because I know Force India was spending $45 million to $90 million a year.
That's crazy.
Depending on the season. Towards the end, it was 90, but I think in the early 2012s, it was like 50, 60. So Force India is spending 60. You're spending maybe 30. You can't get much worse than 30.
NFL teams nowadays are spending like 200 million on just players alone.
I mean, well, now the budget cap's 145 million. So if you want to be competitive, you have to spend at 145.
Yeah.
In 2019, Mercedes' championship winning year, they spent 410 million US dollars. Williams spent 75.
That's a big difference. I want to go look at another team. Is Russia?
I don't even.
They were a Russian team for 4 seasons, and they combined in 4 seasons. They had 2 points. In 4 seasons.
That's not that bad. That's an average of what? 0.75 points a season.
0.5 per season.
That's not that bad.
What's interesting though is I need to get a deeper look into them, but they didn't even race for like the last 3 races in 2014.
Yeah, they had no money. They backed out. They're like, yo, we're broke.
And then they still play another season.
I know.
They backed out like, we can't do it, and then they come back next season.
They scored points as Manor though, right? Manor and Marussia, they scored points, didn't they? I know Jules Bianchi and Verline both scored points in that car.
Only Jules got points in that car.
Oh, damn.
No one else.
That's crazy.
And then HRT is the last one. Or Campos. Well, they have a few names. They were Campos Meadow 1, Hispania Racing, but I guess when in the last season they were HRT Formula 1 team.
What they were was sucking. That's what they were.
And the logo is
questionable.
I don't know what I'm looking at. Is that I can't tell when I'm looking. I think I see it. It says HRT, but I get the idea. I like the creativity. That's just really hard to read.
They probably didn't even hire an actual graphic designer to make that. They hired some barista at Starbucks, paid him $50.
They told them to draw it on a napkin, and that's what they got. They had the owner draw something on a napkin, and they're like, you know what? This is the team logo. What's interesting though too, they played for 3 seasons from 2010 to 2012. 2012 was the last year. They got disqualified twice.
That's a bit
both of the guys got disqualified. First race, both in Australia in 2012 and 2011.
For the 100% rule.
Yeah, that is, I thought if you see teams now, you're just getting kicked out. Yeah, there's the 107% rule because of that, which is crazy. And looking at the time they had to get was 131 is 1 minute 31 seconds, 267 milliseconds. So they got the first driver was 1 minute 32 seconds and 978 milliseconds. And then the next driver after that got 1 minute 34 seconds and 293 milliseconds.
That is.
So they had a driver off by 3 seconds and one by 1.5 seconds.
That is. Wowzers. Wow, that's bad. See, the thing is, the 107% rule used to get used all the time back in the 90s and 2000s. And then people barely even know about it now.
Well, because people know you don't have teams coming in and be like, this is, come on.
It's bad, yeah.
That's bad.
That's not even doable.
That is bad. You have a team that's been around for 4 years, only getting 2 points. A team that's been around for 5 years, getting none. You have a team that's been around for 3 years, got disqualified twice for the same thing doing the same race too.
Well,
in 2 different years.
That's a different type of being locked in. There's locked in academically, and then there's that type of locked in. But because we're not that type of person, we can't lock in like that.
And they use the Cosworth engine too, which I think might have been one of the issues there.
Yeah, it was one of the worst engines. It was it was horrifically underpowered.
Maybe that's the issue, is that maybe they should just use a Ferrari or
they
just
can't afford that. It's out of the budget.
Yeah, that's the thing. When teams come into F1, I don't know. I think as much as teams want to come in, it felt like a lot of a cash grab. We have how many teams that just came in, just didn't do well at all, and just left.
That's why I think Cadillac will do well, because they have a plan. They've had a plan for years.
Well, okay. The thing is too, Cadillac is. I think Cadillac is not going to be last. They're, in my opinion, probably going to get 9. They have 2 drivers who are not bad. They got 2 solid drivers who will probably who will likely get points this season.
Yeah.
The car they are using, what engine are they using?
They're using the Ferrari engine next year.
Yeah. So, at worst, they're going to be Haas 2.0, which is still an F1 team.
Yeah.
So, your worst case, but you likely have similar, if not better, drivers than Haas.
Probably.
So, on paper, they're either going to be Haas 2.0 or they're going to be a bit better.
Yeah.
And, like, the fact that, like, I think they're already making their car for next season. I think most teams are, actually.
Probably. Yeah. Ferrari is doing full-time development now.
Yeah, and then they're using the Ferrari power unit, so they're not, like, using a separate one.
Yeah.
They're not using their own. I think the main thing is looking at it. I don't know. I just gotta take a look at at this season though, just to make sure. So I'm just confirming this real quick, but give me 1 second. What team was that again? Oh, I lost track of what I was trying to do here. Oh yeah, there we go. So right now Sauber uses the Ferrari engine.
Yeah.
And because they'll rebrand the Audi next season, they're using the Audi engine.
That's also a good sign.
Which, it's good, but I think it's like they gotta hope the engine's good.
I mean, that's with everybody. Everyone has to hope that.
Yeah.
I think the only team that will have a surefire good engine is Mercedes.
Probably. Well, I guess McLaren too, because they're using the Mercedes engine.
Yeah, but I think the only engine that is a surefire hit is Mercedes. That's the only one. That's the only manufacturer right now that can sit back and say we have a good engine.
Williams is using the one next season too.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, if you're McLaren, Mercedes, and Williams, you're okay next season. You're good.
Yeah.
The Ferrari one might be questionable. Audi, we'll see how that one does. I think Aston Martin was using the Honda this season.
They're using Mercedes this season, Honda next season.
Mercedes this season, Honda next season. Okay, so switching that could change some things. We'll see how that goes. And they're the only team using Honda. This year, you had Red Bull using
and Racing Bulls, yeah.
Yeah, and now they're using Red Bull Ford.
Well, that partnership is Red Bull with Ford technical help. So it's not a Ford engine. It's a collaborative project that's under the Red Bull powertrains department.
Well, to be fair, Red Bull is not, they don't make cars. They, essentially, the energy drink company that made a lot of money off it, and now there's a lot of other stuff.
Actually, basically, they only started this F1 team for marketing, and it went pretty far, okay? This is a marketing experiment gone a little too well.
Well, that's the thing now is that, like, Red Bull, just as a brand, they just buy everything.
Yeah,
like
every single sport, I swear to God, there's a Red Bull tent. Red Bull people, Red Bull this, Red Bull, every single sport.
At this university, go in for orientation, there's a Red Bull tent right there. You want to go, you want to leave, there's people giving out free Red Bulls right at the entrance.
I was in London, and outside the station for the tube, do you want to know what they were giving us? Cans of Red Bull.
Yeah. Oh, man. But I think it's kind of interesting, though, just seeing, like, as much as people might be like, you don't want to see Red Bull as much, like, just be everywhere, it at least diversifies, like, who's going to be in it. Like, as in racing, Red Bull is not racing stuff. That's not the priority. But using it as a marketing thing and get into it, and then get to a point where it's like, hey, we're actually a good team. Let's actually focus on this now.
Yeah.
And they're making it profitable. And they have 2 teams in F1, which is kind of nice. Like, it kind of sucks a bit because, like, one team is the main team, and then the one team is mostly just like a B team. But then again, it's like, at least they got a team. At least there's a team in there that can be consistent and not getting 0 points over like 3 seasons and then leaving.
Now we're just past the hour mark here. So I think that's a wrap.
I think so.
Perfect. Till this time next week, stay tuned.